to Rapid Plus TCT Game Day. I'm very excited to be here with Brad Keselowski, the head of CAM, one of our newest members at America Makes, so very excited to have you here. What do you think of the show so far? I know you've only been here like all of us a few minutes now.
Yeah, well, John, it's well attended. I came here in 2019, and the show just keeps getting bigger and bigger and better and better, and the technology more and more impressive. So it's good to be here and to see it all firsthand in person, and to learn from others, because I think as we look at the industry, much like America Makes this kind of goal, it's really when you see it as a whole that you can learn how to improve your own outlook and ultimately how to improve the applications and the customer success, which is so pivotal for it to move forward.
Yeah, I think that's what we're all here trying to accomplish. So can you talk a little bit about maybe your journey and how you got into where we are and just the organization that you founded?
Yeah, so I founded CAM in 2019 was actually our launch. So we're a little over 3 years in here now, and it was a really simple goal to build really complicated metal 3D printed parts. And I had seen them in my motorsports career. In fact, I'd even raced with them on some of my race cars, and I thought, wow, this is really cool. And I couldn't help but think how big an impact it would have on the rest of the world if they had the ability to see these parts and the applications made their way to end users. And so that was really some of the dream and vision, and then taking kind of my motorsports approach to this industry, which is really about building an integrated team so that our end parts are not only designed properly, but manufactured all the way through every step of the way of their journey to be successful. Because ultimately, I had experience with these types of parts before I got into owning a business, and some were good, some were bad. And I viewed CAM, as I created, as kind of the company to make the parts that I would want if I was ordering them.
Yeah, and I think one thing maybe important to make sure everyone understands is, it's not just, it wasn't founded to make race car components. It's really, and I think that's what is really exciting, and I think our community in general is really good at coming together and learning from one another.
Yes.
And that's what we America Makes are trying to do. And in the end, we're trying to get more people engaged so that people can figure out how and where to adopt it. I think maybe you could talk a little bit about some of the ways that you've tried to introduce that, and different types of industries that you're working in today.
Well, there's a lot of potential. I always look at additive as really specifically metal additive, having four key areas where it kind of plays and has strengths. And when you can get one of those areas to work for your case study, it's great. When you can get 2, 3, and even 4, like home run, grand slam, right? And so if I look at kind of the 4 categories where I always feel like it really plays in, there's parts consolidation. Right? How do we take something that's right now 4 or 5 pieces, and they bolt together, maybe sometimes clumsily, and make that one monolithic part with equal properties? And then naturally, what comes out of that is lightweighting, things of that nature, which can have significant advantages depending on your industry and user case. So I always look at that as kind of number 1 principle. Number 2 is when you can get some design freedoms, and really specifically what we see a lot at CAM is internal geometries that are almost impossible to produce with any other means. And generally the only other means there are to produce them are with castings, which struggle with lower material properties than what we can achieve in additive, or with brazings, which generally have a failure point in the brazing junction. So additive parts generally play very, very well there because we have better properties. And that kind of leads me to the third piece, which is materials. Additive has the potential to open up a whole nother set of materials that the world doesn't even know about. And we're seeing that with NASA and their developments every day, and a number of other companies where they're creating materials that I always think about Wolverine and X-Men, like with amazing properties that really the world's never seen before, that are going to open up doors for us that didn't exist previously, whether that's in space or power gen or medical, you name it. And then the fourth one, which I think a lot of people go to immediately with additive, is the different supply chain issues it alleviates. Now, personally, I'm not a biggest fan of that category. I'm more category of 1, 2, and 3. Yeah. But supply chain is a piece of this. Being able to design and iterate quickly, being able to replace things that are built in factories that maybe don't exist anymore, or that are hard to get access to. So anytime you can find a use case that fits one of those 4 criteria, you've got something. When you can find a use case that fits 2 or 3 and even 4 of those, that's when we really see additive be successful. And there are a number of industries that I think have embraced that idea.
Yep. No, I completely agree. And I think, depending on which industry you're from, even being able to, not to say just, but to just fit into one of those categories is good enough. And,
yes.
And as we're trying to grow and kind of all be evangelists for what's going on here, it's been challenging, I think, to get the masses engaged and to understand. And I think I'd be interested in your journey in building the organization to bring people in, because I think right now we're not necessarily addressing some of those categories.
Sure.
We're jamming it in the hole because, maybe because of supply chain problem. And there's good reasons to do that, and it is certainly helpful and we accomplished a mission. But it's not going to see a kind of a path to adoption or exponential growth.
Well, we're all limited by our own imagination. And that's just an inherent human flaw. And it affects this industry pretty dramatically. Because I think we look at things and we have a hard time seeing them any other way. Whether that's a use study or an educational path, et cetera. And we see that a lot in additive, where we'll see a company that wants to get involved but doesn't know how. And they'll come to us and say, hey, I've got this bolt. Can you 3D print it? And we'll say, yeah, we can 3D print you a bolt that really doesn't fit any of those 4 criteria I just told you about before. There's no supply chain issue. Probably not going to make it out of a material that's any better. There's no design freedoms. There's no parts consolidation. We're just doing it just to do it at this point. And so what that usually shows is kind of a fundamental misunderstanding of the capabilities of the technology. And so really our job, and I look at America Makes is kind of leading the way in this, is to educate towards opportunity. Whether it's in the workforce, whether it's in user cases or beyond, it's really to educate and drive that awareness. And that's why I'm proud of Cam to play a part of America Makes.
Absolutely, and we are proud to have you here. Hope you enjoy the rest of the show. Thank you for your time today.
Appreciate it, John. Good to see you.
Thanks.